Hey, what's up? This is Jeremy, and welcome to my series on making a drum and bass album on the Mate tracker in 2 weeks. I've decided to split this video up into 5 more digestible parts. The first video is going to be about the project creation and concepts, and then the samples I used and how I organized them to make them easier to find when I was in the heat of making music. The second is about starting projects, conceptually and technically, and then how I approached arrangement. The third video is all about bass sound design. The fourth is all about all the other sound design and programming builds. And then the final video will be about finishing the project, mixing, mastering, and time management. I hope you'll check out the album with the links in the video description, and I hope you find these videos helpful. Let's get started. So my friends, that is the M8 things that I did. From there, I listened to the tracks to decide if they were ready to come out of the M8, and then I exported stems. To make sure that things were ready to come out of the M8, what I did was I would listen to them, and if I didn't have any changes 3 times listening to them, maybe over a period of a day, taking breaks, then I'd call them done. If I wanted to stop and change something, I would kind of ask myself if it was real, if it really bothered me. If it did, then I would change it, and I would not count that as a time. I would always want to make sure that I restarted and reset expectations, because the listener on the other end, the consumer of your work, doesn't have the same relationship with it that you do. And it's very important that you treat it like the listener will. They want a good holistic experience listening to your music. And if you stop and start and never really experience it like that, then you'll never really be in touch with your listener. So, rule of 3. If I like it 3 times, if I don't want to change anything, it's ready to go. After that, I exported stems. And I exported the stems, in some cases, with the default effects, and in some cases, a lot of cases, especially with vocals, no effects on them at all, because I wanted to do a little bit of extra mixing in Ableton to really make sure that this had good polish. And yeah, so that's what you see here. These are the stems. You'll notice that there's 8 tracks in the Mate. There's more than 8 tracks here, but 7, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I've made some changes here and there to processing with things just because I wanted to add a little bit of extra like polish to the whole thing. But I really didn't do a ton in here in Ableton, just a little bit of limiting. Like if I saw something really sticking out, I'd add a limiter to it. I did my side chaining here if I wanted to do extra side chaining, because again, like we talked about earlier in the Mate, it doesn't really work super well, even though you can do it. Some soothe, a little bit of EQ, and then I mastered everything with Ozone 12. Ozone 12 is the newest version of Ozone from Isotope. I have been an Ozone devotee for a very long time. And what I do with Ozone is, my process has changed over time, but what I do is I have created little genre targets by grabbing pieces of music that I really like. So I'll grab 2 or 3 drum and bass tracks that I love the drops of, and I'll just chop the drops out and I'll export them as a chunk. And then I'll feed them into the targets here. If I come in here and add a audio file, I'll just pick this one. It's going to go ahead and use that as the target for the assistant in matching all the stuff in here. And I love this. It gives me a lot of confidence in how I master. And I always use my ears when I do this, but I always love to see what the target is for this kind of thing, in this case. So here's my track versus theirs. And look at this. I'm actually pretty stoked that I was able to match that pretty well. I think of the tracks that I have in this album, this one is the most faithful to the drum and bass sound that I really like. But then you can go through and you can adjust everything you need to. This is the EQ. This is the first step in trying to get to the curve of the target track. We have impact, which is a transient shaper, the imager, clarity, and stabilizer. Stabilizer is going to work on the target, but there are other things you can choose drum and bass, and it will just sort of generically try to make your thing sound like drum and bass, which I think is interesting. But the stabilizer generally is going to work on whatever piece of audio you gave it. So If you're using a target like this, the stabilizer will work on that target as opposed to just a regular sort of generic genre. But I'm assuming that what they've done for these genres here is that they have done exactly what I've done. They've averaged a ton. Look at the drum and bass cue thing here. See, there's more of a big wavy line here. That's because there's more of a range of what they have added as the possibility of drum and bass. They probably averaged a lot of drum and bass tracks together, and that's the range that the track could fall into. Whereas my target here has a much more specific range. So finding reference tracks that really match the sound, not just the genre, but the sound you're going for will help you master an Ozone better. If you'd like me to do a video about mastering with a new Ozone, let me know. I have videos on the previous versions and lots changed since then. One of the things I really like that's changed is I can use this custom assistant and I can dial in all the stuff that you see here. If I want my whole album to hit like let's say -7 LUFS, I can come in here, say -7 LUFS. I want my output level to always be this match right here. This is usually what I go for right there. Maximize, of course, on, true peak on. I can change the analysis time. That's the number of seconds that it analyzes our track to make decisions. And I don't need master rebalance on, so I can turn that off. And then when I start the assistant, I'll play the part of my mix that I want it to analyze. It's always going to be the drop, the loudest part, the biggest part of my mix. And then it's going to do its thing and give me a starting point to jump off the mastering process. I don't master in the mix sessions. I do my mixes with an Ozone on there after I've gotten really confident with the mix, just to get a sense of a quick and dirty master. Then I turn off the Ozone, export a 4832 file, put it all in a sequenced Ableton session. So this is what my actual mastering session looks like. Each one of these has an Ozone on it, and I can go through and just quickly listen to each one as I want to. And yeah, it's just, this is the process I've iterated on so many times at this point. I have different ways of doing it. What these actually look like when I'm working on them is like this. For exports, what I'll do is I'll put them all like this and then just select all of these like this. And when I export, make sure that I have the longest amount selected there. I'll go to export and I will go to selected tracks only. And then it will export each one of these as its own file. I'll trim the excess off of them, make sure the fades are all good. And I'll do that in Audition. You can do it in Audacity. It's that final last looks to make sure all my peaks are good. Once I have the tracks in the format that I want to upload to Bandcamp or other places, I will tag everything the way it needs to get tagged, make sure it looks all pretty, and then I'm good to go. That's the process. I've been recording for so long, I do not know if I trust the quality of information that I have passed on to you at all for the whole thing here. Okay, let's talk about visuals. Here is the Mate. I'm going to take this USB-C to USB-A cable, use USB-C on the Mate. I'm going to plug it into the top of the Mate. I'm going to find a way to get this plugged into my computer, and then I'm going to turn the Mate on. I'm going to go to m8.run on my browser. And when I do that, the Mate display shows up in the browser. Then I'll go over to the mixer screen and hit play and record this with OBS. Then I'll go down to the limiter parameter on the screen and hold Shift Edit, and that will take me to the limiter screen. I will then record that. I let these record for the entirety of every song for the album, so I am recording a total of 2 full passes of video for every song with this method. I took all the video that I shot in New York and I put it into a single sequence in Premiere, and then I dropped an effect on it called Symbol Mapper from Red Giant. This turns the entire video into a set of mapped characters, which looks really, really cool and matches the vibe of the Mate visuals I was trying to go for. I exported that because it does not like sharing resources with other effects, but now it's its own video I can put in other places. I took the Mate screen recordings and brought them into After Effects and comped them, as you can see here, covering up the note value and tempo of the mixer section so that it only showed once. That's what that mask is right there. You can see around the mixer. I also sometimes had to put a little shape layer. You can see that little square right there to cover up my mouse cursor because I forgot to get it off screen. That goes into this master comp here. These two are text layers where I just wrote the name of the album and the track name. And then these over here are meant to mimic the Mate Easter egg mode, which puts out all the waveforms playing right now, which you cannot record via a screen capture with Mate.run. So these are the After Effects audio waveform effect. As you can see here, they're set to stems from the Mate, which I exported to mix the album. I arranged them in a vertical series of spaces so they all have equal space. And then I brought that into the master comp and put it over there on the right. I added a 4-color gradient effect, which is native to After Effects, onto the waveforms and picked the colors from the mate interface itself and whatever else I was using as my main color scheme to give it a uniform look with the rest of the visuals. Finally, there's this little ticker on the bottom that goes through, which is just a whole bunch of backward slashes that I used the start and end parameter, animator parameter in After Effects to move through. As you can see here, if I mess around with that by hand, I can make that jump around. It's literally just revealing the characters over time. It's really nothing crazy. All that got exported, and I brought every single one into Premiere, where I comped in a small cropped version of the visuals from New York with the symbol mapper effect on them. As you can see, I actually fucked up the final recording here. If you look on YouTube, you'll notice that there is no name and name of album because I accidentally let the symbol mapper comp over it, which was a really stupid mistake. But by the time I realized I had done it, it was too late and I didn't want to re-upload it. I also experimented a little bit with a final effects layer with Magic Bullet Looks to add a little bit of like sheen to the whole thing and maybe add a little bit of like extra cassette futurism vibe. By the end, I just decided I liked the clean look of it straight out of After Effects and just exported it as it was. And that's how I did visuals for this release. Someone asked about time management. As with every single process that I do, I start with the end goal in mind. I always think about what I want to achieve, and then I work backwards from that. If you have a clear idea of what it is that you're aiming for in some way, then it will always be easier to build up to that than it will be to start with no idea what you're doing. So my time management starts with knowing what I want to do. And in this case, I knew I wanted to make a drum and bass album, and I knew I wanted to do it while on vacation in New York City. I could only afford a certain amount of time in New York City, and so to make an album, I needed to have this many things done, and I needed to have them done in this much time. I knew that when I got back from New York City, I was going to have a week with my partner out, and that meant that I could be a schlub on the couch with the dogs on the M8 finishing things without worrying about like annoying them. I had a 2-week window. I knew that my main creativity was going to happen in New York City, and I knew that my finishing up and polishing was going to happen when I was at home. I needed to get as many ideas cemented in New York City as possible. And I used the process that we talked about earlier by hitting the most important part of the track as hard as I could and then working backwards from that. You need to understand how much focus that you as an individual need to get something done. And then you need to decide what it is that you want to do and use that as an equation to decide how much time and space you need to give yourself to do a project. It's about intention. It's about knowing how you work. And it's about making time and space for you to get things done. This is going to be personal for everyone, but it is a matter of discipline. And I do believe that anyone can do it. But I think it might be easier for people who have issues with this if you start with an end goal and work backwards. You know, not to plug, but like I do lessons on this stuff. So if you want to plan something and you're not really sure how, if you say, well, I want to make an album or an EP, I want to play a live show, but I've never done this before and I don't know what to do, you know, hit up my lesson thing on my website and we can talk about it. Love helping out with that kind of thing. Maybe, you know, 2026 will be the year. Maybe 2026 will be the year that you start and finish the EP or live set or whatever it is that you want to do. Either way, I really appreciate that you've watched this video. Do please check out the album Superstructures. It's on Bandcamp exclusively right now. You get the M8 bundles when you buy it. And also there is that pack of mate basses that is on Gumroad. So they'll be linked in the description. Either way, I hope that this video was helpful to you. I've been recording for so long. I honestly have no idea if the quality of information in this video is helpful, but I always try to make my videos as low clickbait and as informationally dense as possible. So I hope this video was that for you. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.